Whether you are a college student agonizing over what to major in,
Right.
or maybe a mid-career professional eyeing the next rung on the corporate ladder.
Or an entrepreneur trying to figure out how to scale your business without going completely bankrupt.
Exactly. The shifting economic landscape is, well, it's constantly on your mind. You're probably feeling it right now.
Most people are.
Yeah. It is that low-level hum of anxiety mixed with a very real sense of awe about just how powerful artificial intelligence is becoming with every single passing year. I mean, we all see the headlines.
We see the new model releases.
Right, and we feel the ground literally moving beneath our feet.
It really is an unprecedented pace of economic and structural change. And that is exactly why we're doing this deep dive into the research today.
Yeah.
For those of you who joined us for our previous discussion, we spent a lot of time breaking down the new AI skills you need to develop.
Like how to engineer complex workflows.
Right, how to build systemic AI literacy and how to position your career to ride this massive wave. But today, our mission is to pivot.
We're taking a slightly different angle.
We are transitioning from the broad concept of AI skills into a highly specific, timeline-driven projection based on the economic data we've gathered.
And it's a fascinating timeline.
It is. We are going to explore 20 specific jobs that face a very real, mathematically backed threat of completely disappearing by the year 2035 due to artificial intelligence.
Wow. 20 jobs by 2035.
Yeah. And we are looking at this strictly through the lens of high-income countries. So specifically the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia.
Which is such a crucial distinction. Because, the economics of tech adoption look very different depending on where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
Like the capital expenditure required to replace a worker in London is completely different from the cost-benefit analysis in a developing market.
It's a totally different equation.
It is, but 20 jobs by 2035. That is practically tomorrow in macroeconomic terms.
Yeah, it really is.
We are not talking about some distant sci-fi future. We are talking about the reality that we're all going to be living and working in less than a decade from now. The sheer speed of this technological integration into the enterprise sector is, it's just fascinating to me.
It is incredible to analyze, but we also have to ground this conversation in the reality of what this actually means on a human level.
Right, the social side.
Exactly.
Yep.
We are looking at massive social consequences here. We are staring down the barrel of an impending historic transition of the global workforce.
Yeah.
When millions of roles shift or evaporate entirely across the US, UK, Canada, and Australia, it changes the fundamental fabric of those economies.
That changes everything.
It alters local tax bases, it completely upends how universities structure their degree programs, and it rewrites the social contract of employment. So, as we go through this, we will be balancing the harsh economic math of automation with the profound societal shifts that inevitably flood in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get to the actual list of the 20 jobs, we need to understand the engine of change here.
The underlying drivers.
All right, we need to look at why this is accelerating right now. The audience listening to this already knows the basic definition of machine learning. We know it's about pattern recognition over massive data sets.
Sure.
But what the research points out as the real catalysts for this 2035 timeline are the underlying economics.
It's the convergence.
Exactly. The convergence of automation capabilities, compounding productivity gains, and a fierce, urgent mandate for companies to reduce operational costs. It's not just that the tech got smarter, right?
No, not at all.
It's that the cost of compute has plummeted to a point where replacing human labor is finally viable for mid-sized businesses, not just the mega-cap tech giants.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the exact financial anatomy of a high-income economy.
Right.
Why are the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia the primary targets for this 2035 extinction event? Because labor in these countries is incredibly expensive.
Oh, massively expensive.
When a corporation hires a human being, they aren't just paying a salary.
Not even close.
They are paying payroll taxes, healthcare premiums, retirement contributions, office space leasing, software licenses per seat.
Onboarding costs, training.
Exactly. A human worker is a massive ongoing capital investment. Now, Contrast that with the economics of an artificial intelligence agent.
Right.
Once the foundational model is trained, which, yes, costs billions in initial compute, the marginal cost of deploying that model to do the work of one more human approaches zero.
And that zero marginal cost is the absolute wrecking ball here.
It is.
I mean, if you were a CFO looking at your quarterly earnings, the financial incentive to automate is irresistible. A machine doesn't require a 401k match.
It doesn't need vacation days.
It doesn't experience burnout, and it operates 24/7. You are looking at a scenario where a company can subscribe to an enterprise AI service for, say, $5,000 a year, and that service outputs the equivalent productivity of an $80,000 a year employee.
Exactly. The machine learning advancements provide the mechanism, but the relentless pressure for cost reduction and productivity gains provides the motivation.
It's a perfect storm.
And it's a calculation of complexity versus cost. The AI doesn't need to be perfect.
That's a great point.
It just needs to be more cost-effective than the human equivalent when factoring in an acceptable error rate. So for everyone listening, keep those catalysts in mind: cost, productivity, scalable compute, and the high price of human labor as we transition into the specific vulnerable roles.
Yeah.
Because the jobs most at risk aren't always the ones you might instinctively assume. They're simply the ones where a machine can step in and achieve those exact productivity gains at the cheapest possible implementation cost.
Which brings us to the first wave of our timeline.
The initial impact.
Right. The research isolates the vulnerable spectrum of routine and repetitive roles. These are jobs 1 through 7 on our 20-job countdown.
Okay, let's hear them.
We were looking at data entry clerks, basic customer service representatives, telemarketers, routine accounting professionals, simple graphic designers, payroll processors, and basic transcriptionists.
A very clear pattern there.
Let's dig into the data entry and routine accounting piece first, because the economic data here is just staggering. We aren't just talking about a modest efficiency boost.
No.
We're talking about total displacement.
Let's break down the mechanics of why data entry and routine accounting are first on the chopping block. These jobs rely entirely on predictability and structured data environments.
Right.
Consider the day-to-day workflow of an accounts payable clerk. They receive an invoice, they cross-reference it with a purchase order, what's called a three-way match. They verify the tax cuts, and they input and final numbers into an ERP system like SAP or Oracle.
It's highly repetitive.
Highly. And historically, human beings have an error rate of anywhere from 1% to 4% on these manual transcription tasks.
And a 1% error rate in enterprise accounting can mean millions of dollars in misallocated funds, which then requires more human labor to audit and fix the mistakes.
Precisely. But today's multimodal AI models can ingest an unstructured, messy PDF invoice, instantly extract the vendor ID, cross-reference the purchase order in milliseconds, and execute the payment with a near-zero error rate.
It's incredible.
The closed system of logic that defines routine accounting is the exact environment where AI thrives. There is no ambiguity. There is a correct number and an incorrect number.
Right.
When a job is highly predictable, rules-based, and relies on closed-loop logic, it is the lowest hanging fruit for automation.
But let's look at basic customer service and telemarketing, which are jobs 2 and 3 in this first wave.
This is a bit different.
Yeah, this shifts us away from closed-loop numbers and into human interaction. We've all tracked the evolution of customer service tech. 10 years ago, it was those awful IVR systems.
Oh, the terrible phone trees.
Exactly. The decision trees where you press 1 for billing, press 2 for support, and eventually you just press 0 repeatedly until a human picks up.
We've all been there.
But the data shows those older systems only resolved about 15% of queries without human intervention. The new conversational agents, though, they're resolving upwards of 70% of Tier 1 support tickets entirely autonomously.
What's fascinating here is the cost per resolution metric.
Let's hear the math.
In the United States, an average customer service interaction handled by a human costs the company roughly $7 to $9 when you factor in call center overhead and hourly wages.
Okay.
An AI handling that exact same interaction via semantic understanding and natural language processing costs pennies.
Pennies?
Pennies. The AI can instantly authenticate the user, pull up 7 years of purchase history, process a complex return policy, and issue a refund in the time it takes a human rep to simply load the CRM dashboard.
But if we automate that entire Tier 1 layer, this brings up a massive structural problem for the workforce.
It really does.
Because customer service, telemarketing, data entry, these have historically been the entry-level jobs. This is the broken rung theory in action.
Yes, exactly.
These are the roles where recent graduates or people transitioning industries learn the basic soft skills of the corporate world.
How to talk on the phone, how to send a professional email.
Right. They learn how to communicate professionally, how to handle difficult clients, how to navigate office software. If a company replaces its entire 500-person entry-level support tier with an LLM, how does anyone get their foot in the door to eventually become the manager?
That is the exact social consequence we have to grapple with. It completely severs the traditional apprenticeship model of the corporate ladder.
It pulls the ladder right up.
And we see this exact same dynamic playing out in job number 5 from our first batch, simple graphic design.
Oh, absolutely.
The research highlights the vulnerability of the junior designer. We are not talking about the creative director who spends weeks conceptualizing a global rebrand for a Fortune 500 company.
Right. That's safe for now.
We are talking about the routine, high-volume visual tasks.
Right. Resizing a master logo into 40 different aspect ratios for various social media platforms.
Yeah.
Taking a template and swapping out the text for a local regional market.
Yeah.
Generating a basic email newsletter layout.
Yes. Generative models can execute those localized, repetitive visual tasks in seconds. An agency no longer needs a bullpen of junior designers doing the grunt work.
But your question remains, if an agency doesn't hire junior designers to do the grunt work, how do those designers ever get the 10 years of experience required to become the brilliant creative director?
Yeah, that's the paradox.
The 2035 timeline suggests a future where we have a massive bottleneck. The senior talent commands a massive premium because they possess human ingenuity, but the pipeline to create new senior talent is completely broken by the automation of junior roles.
It fundamentally changes how human capital is developed. And to everyone listening, you are probably already seeing the leading edge of this in your own life.
Oh, totally.
The software you use at work that automatically tags your expenses, the website chatbots that actually resolve your shipping issue without a human handoff. This first wave isn't a prediction for a decade from now. The foundation is being laid today. 2035 is just the year. The economic model suggests these specific roles will cross the threshold of being statistically insignificant in high-income economies.
Which is a sobering reality. But the timeline doesn't stop at the desk.
No, it spreads out.
This brings us to the next tier of our countdown, jobs 8 through 14. This is where the projections show the automation expanding outward, driving a physical and basic cognitive shift.
The physical world is much harder to automate.
It is, but let's list the jobs in this middle tier. We're looking at delivery drivers, long-haul truckers, translators, basic journalism, retail cashiers, repetitive administrative assistants, and inventory control clerks.
Let's split these up.
Yeah, because automating a physical job like a truck driver is a completely different engineering challenge than automating a cognitive job like a translator.
Absolutely.
The physical jobs drivers and retail cashiers are fascinating to me because they require massive breakthroughs in hardware and software convergence.
Right, it's not just code anymore.
Exactly. A long-haul truck isn't a closed digital system like an accounts payable database. It operates out in the chaotic physical world. You are dealing with sensor fusion, edge computing, latency issues, black ice on the road, and unpredictable human drivers cutting you off.
And for a long time, the consensus was that this last mile of physical unpredictability would protect these jobs indefinitely.
People thought driving was safe.
They did. But the projections for 2035 show that the edge computing capabilities, meaning the ability for the vehicle to process gigabytes of sensor data locally in milliseconds without needing a cloud connection, are crossing the threshold of human safety equivalent.
Oh,
And the economic incentive for the logistics industry is astronomical.
tell me about it.
A human long-haul trucker in the U.S. is legally bound by hours of service regulations.
Right, for safety.
Exactly. They can only drive about 11 hours a day before they are mandated to rest. An autonomous freight truck can run 24 hours a day, stopping only to refuel.
That's game-changing.
It effectively doubles the utilization rate of the capital asset while stripping out the labor cost entirely.
But the ripple effect of that is what's truly staggering. We aren't just talking about the truck driver losing a job.
No, it's the whole ecosystem.
If autonomous freight networks become the standard by 2035, You have to look at the massive secondary economies built around human drivers. What happens to the thousands of highway diners, the roadside motels, the specialized truck stops that rely entirely on the daily migration of human truckers across the United States and Canada?
They disappear.
You are looking at the potential hollowing out of entire rural economies that serve as pit stops for the logistics industry.
It is a systemic displacement. And we see a similar localized economic impact with retail cashiers and inventory control clerks.
Yeah, self-checkout on steroids.
Exactly. The shift toward computer vision in retail environments where an array of cameras tracks a customer, registers the items they pick up, and automatically charges their digital wallet when they walk out. It completely removes the point of sale bottleneck.
You just walk in and walk out.
The store operates with a fraction of the headcount, primarily just stocking shelves, though even inventory control is increasingly managed by automated systems that track real-time weight changes on the shelves.
So even stocking is getting optimized.
Right. For millions of workers in the UK and Australia, retail is the ultimate fallback employment. It's flexible, it's ubiquitous. Removing that safety net from the economy requires a massive societal adjustment.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
Because while the physical jobs require these massive hardware build-outs, the cognitive jobs in this middle-tier translators and basic journalism are purely software plays, and they're moving even faster.
Much faster.
Let's look at translation.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that machine translation was a joke.
It was awful.
It would give you rigid, literal translations that completely missed the cultural context. We used to believe that capturing the idiom, the tone, and the nuance of human language was an impenetrable barrier for a machine.
It was until the architecture of the models changed. The shift to transformer-based models allowed the AI to look at the entire context of a paragraph or a whole document rather than translating word by word.
It looks at the big picture.
Exactly. Now, the AI understands that a specific phrase in French carries a sarcastic undertone based on the context of the previous 3 sentences, and it translates it into English with the equivalent sarcastic idiom.
That is mind-blowing.
For multinational corporations, the reliance on human translation agencies for internal communications, technical manuals, and basic marketing copy is rapidly dropping to zero.
And the data on basic journalism is just as stark. We're looking at the complete automation of quantitative reporting.
Just the facts and figures.
Right. The generation of sports box scores, stock market summaries, quarterly earnings reports, and localized weather dispatches. The AI can pull the raw API data from a financial exchange and instantly generate a perfectly readable AP-style news article highlighting the key revenue beats and misses before a human reporter has even opened their laptop.
This raises an important question about the hollowing out of the newsroom.
Another broken run.
Exactly. If the AI handles all the quantitative reporting, the argument is that human journalists are freed up to do the deep, investigative, qualitative work, the interviews, the source building, the nuanced analysis.
But again, the pipeline issue.
How do you train a hardened investigative journalist if they don't spend their first 3 years cutting their teeth on the local sports beat or writing routine financial summaries?
Right. You don't just walk out of journalism school and uncover a massive geopolitical scandal.
You have to practice.
You learn how to write on a deadline by churning out those basic stories. If those jobs are gone by 2035, the training ground disappears. And this perfectly transitions us into the most heavily debated section of our deep dive.
This is where people get defensive.
Very defensive. Because it is very easy for a white-collar professional with a master's degree to listen to this and think, well, the logistics networks and the entry-level data jobs are automating, but my work is highly complex. I do bespoke intellectual work. I'm safe.
The projections firmly reject that sense of security.
They absolutely do. This is the ultimate threat to the knowledge worker. We are now at the final 6 jobs on our timeline jobs 15 through 20.
The complex cognitive tasks.
Right. And this is where AI comes for the high-status roles. The final roles facing near extinction by 2035 are legal research assistants, basic coding jobs, market research analysts, scheduling assistants, routine content writers, and junior data analysts.
Let's really analyze the mechanics of this, starting with legal research assistants and junior data analysts. Historically, these have been highly respected, well-compensated, white-collar skills. A junior lawyer or a paralegal will spend weeks immersed in digital databases like Westlaw or LexisNexis, scanning thousands of pages of case law to find a specific precedent that supports their firm's argument.
It's grueling work.
Or a market analyst will spend a month crunching consumer sentiment datasets to find a hidden trend in purchasing behavior.
But if we brutally deconstruct what those jobs actually entail, what are they doing?
It's pattern recognition.
Exactly. They aren't in the courtroom arguing the case before a judge. They aren't in the boardroom making the final strategic decision. They are performing high-level pattern recognition. They are searching for a highly specific needle in an impossibly large haystack of text or numbers.
And as we established at the very beginning of this deep dive, pattern recognition over massive, unstructured datasets is the exact core competency of modern AI.
That is what it was built for.
The AI can ingest the entire corpus of a country's legal history. It doesn't just keyword search, it understands the semantic relationships between different rulings.
Right.
It can find an obscure, decades-old precedent relevant to a modern contract dispute in 3 seconds, and then generate a synthesized brief explaining exactly why it applies.
Boom.
For a law firm partner, the productivity gain is astronomical. You no longer need to bill a client for 40 hours of junior associate research time when the AI delivers a superior, more exhaustive result instantly.
But the job on this list that truly creates friction in the tech community is basic coding.
Oh, definitely.
For the last 2 decades, the universal career advice, the supposed silver bullet for economic security, was learn to code.
Everyone was told to learn to code.
We told an entire generation that if they learned Python or Java or C++ soup, they would be immune to automation. We treated coding like a blue-collar trade for the digital age. And now, basic software development is on the chopping block right alongside routine content writing.
Because coding, at its core, is just another language with strict rules and syntax.
It's a logic.
And AI models are language engines. If you give a model a plain English prompt, build me a responsive web application with a secure user authentication portal, a connection to a SQL database, and a payment processing gateway, the AI doesn't just write the boilerplate code.
It does everything.
It structures the architecture, it writes the unit tests, it identifies potential security vulnerabilities, and it provides the deployment scripts.
Okay, let's unpack the math on this because this is where I actually push back on the prevailing narrative.
Okay, let's hear it.
A lot of the industry rhetoric frames this as career evolution. They say, oh, the AI won't replace the programmer will just become an AI manager.
We hear that a lot.
But let's look at the actual numbers. If a tech company or a law firm buys an enterprise AI license that literally does the foundational work of 10 junior developers or 10 legal researchers, you only need 1 senior architect or 1 legal strategist to review and manage that output.
Right.
There's a 90% job loss in those specific entry-level cohorts. Evolving titles from coder to AI auditor doesn't solve the macroeconomic math problem of displacement. I genuinely think these roles as employment categories for the masses are going to be completely decimated.
Your math regarding the 1-to-10 ratio is accurate in a static economy.
But the economy isn't static.
Exactly. This brings us to a well-documented economic concept known as Jevons paradox.
Okay.
Jevons paradox states that as technological progress increases the efficiency with which a resource is used, thus reducing its cost, the rate of consumption of that resource actually rises. If the cost of generating high-quality legal research or writing functional code drops by 90%, the demand for legal services and software doesn't stay flat. It skyrockets.
So because it's cheaper, we just consume way more of it.
Exactly. If custom software development becomes incredibly cheap, then every local bakery, every mid-sized logistics firm, and every regional hospital will want highly customized proprietary software systems.
They couldn't afford it before, but now they can.
Right. If legal research is virtually free, we might see a massive surge in litigation, contract reviews, and regulatory compliance auditing. The sheer volume of output increases exponentially.
Okay, I see.
So yes, the grueling, repetitive part of the knowledge work is completely outsourced to the AI. The job of junior associate doing document review disappears. But the human is elevated to a strategic role, and the total number of strategists needed might actually increase because the volume of work has scaled so dramatically.
I see the logic, but it still assumes a massive leap in skill.
It does.
It means the barrier to entry for these fields becomes incredibly high by 2035. You can't just be a basic coder who takes tickets and writes isolated functions. You have to be a systems thinker, a software architect from day one.
You have to see the big picture.
You have to understand how the code serves the broader business objective. It's a terrifying leap for someone just entering the workforce.
It is a terrifying leap, and it perfectly sets up the crucial final piece of our analysis.
The sanctuary.
Yes. If the projections are accurate and AI absorbs the data entry, the logistics driving, the routine translation, the legal research, and the foundational coding, what is the economic sanctuary for the human worker?
Where do we go?
Our research explicitly isolates 4 distinct human traits that AI, regardless of compute power, cannot easily replicate by 2035.
And these are...
These are the pillars of a future-proof career: emotional intelligence, leadership, true creativity, and strategic thinking.
Let's break down why these specific traits are fundamentally shielded from the automation issue we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Let's start with emotional intelligence and leadership. We've talked about AI optimizing supply chains and writing financial reports, but an AI doesn't understand human friction.
Not at all. If we look at the reality of corporate management, diagnosing a problem is only 10% of the job.
That's the easy part.
Right. An AI system might analyze a company's internal data and mathematically determine that merging 2 departments will result in a 15% reduction in operational costs. It can produce the perfect, mathematically optimized org chart, but an AI cannot sit in a room with 50 anxious human beings, look them in the eye, and navigate their fears about losing their status.
You can't read the room.
It cannot rebuild broken trust between 2 rival teams. It cannot inspire a burned-out workforce to push through a difficult quarter. Leadership is fundamentally an exercise in empathy and emotional resonance.
Yeah.
A machine does not possess a limbic system. It does not understand morale, loyalty, or the human need for purpose.
So, what does this all mean? It means the grand irony of the artificial intelligence revolution is that the most economically valuable skills in 2035 won't be the technical, hard skills. They will be the deeply human soft skills.
The ones we used to brush off.
Exactly. The premium shifts from the person who can write the code to the person who can align the human capital to execute the vision.
Yeah.
And look at the other 2 traits: true creativity and strategic thinking.
Right.
Now, I know someone listening is going to point out a contradiction here. Earlier, we said simple graphic design and routine content writing jobs 5 and 19 are going to disappear. And those sound like creative fields. So how is creativity a sanctuary?
That's a great question. We have to differentiate between routine creation and true groundbreaking creativity.
How so?
An AI is, by definition, a probabilistic engine trained on historical data.
Yeah.
It is derivative. It can mimic existing patterns brilliantly.
It copies well.
It can mash up past artistic styles to create a compelling logo, or it can regurgitate known facts into a competent SEO blog post. But true creativity is the ability to connect 2 completely unrelated, seemingly contradictory concepts to invent something entirely novel.
Something that hasn't been seen before.
Exactly. It is the ability to understand the unspoken cultural zeitgeist and create art or messaging that resonates with the human condition in a way that has never been articulated before. An AI looks backward at what has been done. Human creativity looks forward to what has never existed.
It's the difference between generating a picture of an astronaut on a horse, because you trained on millions of pictures of astronauts and horses, versus inventing the concept of the space race in the first place.
That's a perfect analogy.
And that ties directly into the final trait, strategic thinking. AI is phenomenal at operating within complete data sets. If you think of a business problem like a game of chess, the AI knows all the rules, it knows the dimensions of the board, and it can calculate 1 billion possible moves to find the optimal path to victory.
But the real world of global economics, human society, and business strategy is not a chessboard.
The rules change.
Constantly. The rules are not fixed. It is a landscape of massive ambiguity, incomplete data, shifting geopolitical variables, and irrational human actors. Strategic thinking is the ability to navigate that dense fog of ambiguity.
To make decisions in the dark.
It is the ability to define the vision of where we want to go, even when the parameters of success are constantly shifting. The AI is the most powerful navigational tool ever created to help us reach the destination, but the human must be the one to define the destination.
For everyone listening to this deep dive right now, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the actionable takeaway.
Listen closely.
I highly encourage you to ruthlessly audit your own daily tasks against this 2035 timeline. Look at your calendar for the past week. Are you spending 80% of your time relying on repetitive knowledge, memorization, or executing predictable processes?
Are you just pushing paper?
Are you just acting as a human router for information? If so, you are in the crosshairs of this economic shift and you need to pivot. You need to ask yourself, how can I actively cultivate my emotional intelligence?
How can I step up into leadership roles, even informal ones within my team?
Exactly. How can I exercise strategic vision and ask why we are doing a project rather than just executing the checklist of how to do it?
That is the crucial mindset shift right there. Adapting to the 2035 landscape isn't about trying to outcompute the AI. You will lose that battle every time.
You cannot beat the machine at math.
No. It is about aggressively leaning into the aspects of your intellect that make you uniquely human. If you are operating in one of these high-income countries, the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, where the financial incentive to automate is at its absolute peak, your goal should be to harness the AI.
Make it work for you.
Let the AI do the boring, repetitive, mathematically complex parts of your job. Use that newly freed time, that massive productivity gain, to build deep relationships with your clients, to mentor the junior staff who are struggling to find their footing in this new economy, or to brainstorm a bold new strategic direction for your entire department.
Yeah.
In a world completely flooded with automated information and instantaneous data retrieval, human critical thinking and emotional resonance will be the ultimate survival tools.
I love that concept of adaptability. It reframes the whole conversation. We aren't just passive victims waiting for a macroeconomic tsunami to hit us. We can actively shape how we fit into this new paradigm.
We have agency in this.
Okay, let's take a breath and look back at the incredible ground we have covered in this deep dive. We started by examining the raw, exponential speed of machine learning, driven not just by scientific curiosity, but by a relentless corporate mandate for cost reduction and productivity gains in high-wage economies.
The zero marginal cost.
We watched as that engine of change targeted the routine tasks. First, the data entry, the basic customer service, the routine accounting. We saw the potential collapse of the entry-level training ground.
The broken rung.
Then we saw the technology step off the screen and into the physical world, threatening massive sectors like logistics and retail, while simultaneously conquering cognitive hurdles like nuance in translation and basic quantitative journalism.
We then explored the profound shock coming to the knowledge worker class.
The legal researchers and the coders.
We debated the complex math of job displacement versus Jevons paradox, questioning the future of legal research, market analysis, and foundational software engineering. We established that while the titles might evolve, the core nature of these roles will demand intense human oversight and systems-level thinking, rather than rote execution.
And finally, we found our sanctuary. We isolated the irreplaceable human traits that defy algorithm replication, the empathy required for true leadership, the ingenuity of groundbreaking creativity, and the ability to navigate ambiguity through strategic thinking.
It is a completely transformed economic landscape by 2035. The shift is real, the financial incentives driving it are unstoppable, the stakes for the global workforce are incredibly high, and the time to start adapting your own career trajectory is right now. It really is. To close out our deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final thought drawn directly from the projections we've been analyzing.
Let's hear it.
It is a profound reflection on everything we have discussed, and it is the central paradox you need to consider as you navigate this shifting landscape. Here is the question to ponder. Do you think AI will eliminate more jobs than it creates?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question right there, and the answer will define the next decade of our lives. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a great conversation.
Take that question, mull it over, debate it with your colleagues and your family, and most importantly, consider how you will leverage your uniquely human traits to thrive in the world of 2035. Until next time, keep learning and keep adapting.